isn't it? Because that's sort of what all of this is about. People take time to acquire the knowledge, and then they share the knowledge.
Yes, I'm actually on a subscriber of Blinkist.
Blinkist.
Subscriber to Blinkist?
No,
Blinkist.
what's that?
Blinkist. Anyone watching now, please type in the chat whether you have heard of Blinkist.
Blink and you miss it.
So my dad used to have these books. I remember he had loads of these books called Bluffer's Guide to Wine, Bluffer's Guide to Selling, Bluffer's Guide, all these things. And I think that's my simplest way to do it. It's basically books condensed to 15 minutes of reading or listening. So they just summarize the elements of the book for you. And you just, yeah. It's like the way I was looking is like, if I want to go to a dinner party and sound intelligent and I haven't read a book, go to Blinkist, 15 minutes, listen to it. Boom.
I can't read, but I can listen.
But yes, with Soul of Money, I've never read the book. You can tell me all about it. And everyone else can read about it too. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning on another episode of Waking Up to Money. Please say hello in the chat. Maybe share what's the weather like with you today, because at the moment here in Brighton it's grey. It's a bit grim and grey, and so love to hear anyone who's got sun in their life, because I think that I need that.
We all do. That's the logo.
It is. It is.
It's
and actually
not even a podcast. It's sunshine. Oh, Carlos has left. That's how good it was.
Yeah, I had to run away because I was just thinking, like, we recently changed the logo for the podcast on Waking Up to Money, and I was wondering why it felt so familiar and really just like felt right. And then I remember this mug for Day of Nothing. I don't know if you can see it. It's just basically the same thing but sideways. It was Lawrence's inspiration that subliminally impacted me.
Well, you know what they say: there's no new ideas, just old ideas reused.
Great artists steal. That's what I've learned. Great. So we have Stephen has sunshine in his head, though it's raining on the oysters. I don't know if I'm supposed to. Is that way of you? Is that was an onomatopoeic? That's the wrong way. Lawrence is caught on now. He's coming at me with his copyright lawyers. It's all about the branding, Lawrence. We're trying to keep it consistent. Alex, rainy and drippy and wet in Norfolk. Okay. Oh, everyone's got grey weather. Grey in Birmingham as well with Mark. Oh, we need someone who's like in Peru, or actually no, Peru's cold.
Paddington. Aunt Lucy.
Marmalade sandwiches. Okay. No one's interested in our weather talk and marmalade sandwich talk and little small bear talk. How are you this morning, Ben? Do you want to share?
I'm good. I'm good today. I can't sort of bang on about the back to school nature of the week anymore, because particularly for lots of people that is not relevant, but I'm going to say anyway, we're obviously in back to school week now. I did the school run yesterday, which was a good day. And then I calculated on the way back from school, which is clearly a waste of time, that the kids have been in school for 70 days in the last year. And so I think the great reveal from this time is going to be that school is totally useless other than for social purposes. But anyway, an unrelated aside.
I will get back to you in about 22 years' time to see to report back on the status of employment of my children. And see whether that's actually had if we can trace that back. But yeah, no, it's interesting because there's a lot of stuff you can do online if you've got access to the right technology, and like we found with, I was just going to actually relating it back to the stuff that we do, whether it's a pricing program or we do 2020 vision, is not the content, is that engagement, the bouncing of ideas, the clarity you get by just expressing what's going through your head with other people. There's a lot in that, and it isn't just sitting there listening to someone tell you to write something down or something like that.
Yeah, and I guess it's like it's what you're then exposed to, isn't it? Like because the kids have been around, so they kind of do things like kind of may have been on our conversation last week. One of the boys kind of walking in, so they sort of know like we're having this conversation. And I was in the car with them, and they were talking about Carlos, and I was thinking, like Zach, someone in Zach's class is called Carlos, and I was thinking, why are they talking about like Carlos in his class? This Zoom conversation, and I thought, shit, they're talking about this, and they basically got on, and their solution was chocolate money, basically. That's where they were going to. The pricing was chocolate money.
Chocolate money. Well, it is. At least it has inherent value rather than just pieces of paper or pieces of metal. There is something you can do with it. I've got this impression now that Carlos is the person that stops Daddy from fixing stuff downstairs on TV.
Quite possibly, yeah. Definitely, Carlos is some kind of spanner in the works.
Yeah, so like, he's taking Daddy away, especially in the mornings when we need to show him something with Simon Cowell or something. I don't know what it was.
It was Simon Cowell on Horrible Histories. Important stuff.
Oh, important stuff. Back to important stuff.
Yes.
We'd love to hear from anyone here if they around this question about what your customers are actually buying. And maybe a thought to churn around in your head is, when you're thinking about your thing and the stuff that you do, what do you immediately think that they're buying? And maybe some of you are more enlightened and you'll be able to describe exactly what they're buying. But just to be honest, and if there is an honest thing, this is what they're buying, and this is what I always sell, would be if you have maybe something you want to share around that, or a revelation around that, that'd be great. But today we're going to talk about the title of this was the 3 reasons why clients buy, but essentially, what is it that people are buying, and what is it that people are actually going for? So if you've read the email, which I'm sure, actually I know, at least 35.6% of people on the mailing list have opened the email, and about 2.3% have clicked on a link. But if you read the actual email, you'll understand there's some other aspects around this. And maybe, Ben, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So I did notice that we said it was, what does it say? Here are 3 reasons why clients buy. And then I ignored that, because I think actually it's not that there are kind of 3 reasons. I know. So when we were talking about this, and I know it may not look like we have much planning for these things, but there is some conversation which happens before we turn up on Wednesday. We were we were talking about aspects of the course that might be useful to try and sort of offer to people, so that they could start using these things in their day to day. And one of the kind of key modules on the course is, I think it's titled, I should probably know what it's titled, Price the Client, Not the Job. And so that's about kind of taking focus away from the thing of what we do and understanding a little bit more about why people are buying, understanding their kind of motivations. And one of the other things that I kind of was thinking about this, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he had recently bought a course, and it wasn't sort of totally clear to me what the course was for, like what he would sort of get from doing it. And I was sort of saying to him, guys, what actually is it? What are you going to get? And really, in the kind of conversation that followed, it was kind of clear that really what he got from it was the opportunity to spend time with the organization who were putting the course on, to spend time with the people who were putting the course on. And actually, that was his motivation to buy. It was he spoke about it as kind of topping up on the ideas that they kind of believe in. And so, really that sort of talks to a kind of really intangible reason for buying. And that actually is a big part of what we sort of talk about. There are many reasons why people buy, and I think we often get sort of stuck in a thing or we kind of only look as far as, the reason that people are buying is they need my coaching, or they want to learn mindfulness, or they need some assistance, some help with something, or they want a website, or they want some marketing support, or whatever it might be. Because of course that's the kind of world that, that's the extent of the world that we what we spend our time in. I provide this is the solution that I provide, this is the thing I provide, therefore that's the thing that they're buying. But of course, like the example with the course, in their instance, you might have had the conversation with them and they say, what is it we do? Oh, we do courses around whatever X, Y, Z. But of course, that same thing, when you then talk to somebody who bought the course, it's like, well, no, it's like, of course, I'm not interested in the course. I was interested in spending time with the ideas that you talk about. And, once you sort of look beyond the what of what we do to the kind of why of people buy, you start to kind of open up this kind of whole world of sort of motivation, essentially, which is actually kind of informing why people are buying the things that you do. And so those things, the reasons that people buy, sometimes they're tangible and sometimes they're intangible. And sometimes there are kind of other practical aspects too. And when we talk about this on the course, we actually, in a sort of slightly confusing analogy, started to talk around this idea of kind of ingredients. And so there are many, many kind of ingredients for why people buy. And the kind of task of the people who are selling, so everybody kind of listening, whatever it might be, the task of the people selling is to put the ingredients together in the right kind of way, which talks to the kind of motivations and interests that your customers and clients have. So the thing that Carlos is sharing there is just one of the slides from the materials on the course. So this, as you can see, we're kind of touching on this idea that there are kind of tangible reasons and there are intangible reasons. Tangible reasons in some contexts, and this, might be if you're kind of selling to businesses, the people are buying your things, your stuff, your kind of what, because they want to grow their businesses. That might mean kind of more money for their business. They might want more customers. They might want to grow. They might want a kind of specific kind of return. They might want a kind of bigger share of the market. They might want to kind of reduce the kind of risk. But there are other things too. They might want more time. They might want more ease. They might want more peace of mind. And these things start to come into the intangible. They might want, like the first point in the intangible there, they want kind of good feelings. They want something uncomfortable to go away. And that is kind of a huge sort of motivation that people have across the board, really. And, other reasons why people might buy, they might buy, as we were talking about with the course, they buy to kind of spend time with the idea of you. I think this is a kind of hugely important thing why we buy lots and lots of stuff. Like we're talking about with the course, with other things, people buy because they want to spend time with the idea of you. I think, you guys, Carlos might see this different, but I see this in lots of the kind of offerings and things that you guys put on at Happy Startups. There is a really clear idea at the heart of what you guys do. And I think that lots of people will probably kind of buy because it's an opportunity to spend time with, yourself and Lawrence, but also with the idea of kind of Happy Startups. And I think this sort of motivation is a kind of big part. And so the point around all of this is that it's really important to get into this. And so it's not about the kind of what, somebody kind of mentioned in the email, this kind of reference, which we accidentally attributed to the wrong person, was talking about this idea that people buy only two things. They buy good feelings and they buy solutions to problems. So I accidentally attributed that to the person who founded Aldi. Now, that's not to say that Aldi isn't interested in good feelings and solutions, but in this instance, that quote does not belong to them. It actually comes from somebody else called Michael Leboeuf, who's just another sort of management thinker. But this idea that people buy good feelings and solutions, that's actually what they're interested in. And to that, we kind of add a third, actually, is that people buy, people are wanting their expectations exceeded. And that actually is a kind of hugely important part. And the thing is, if we are not exploring these things, if we don't take the time to find out what are your expectations, what is it that you're expecting of the service, of the product that I'm going to provide? And actually, so if we don't take time to explore that, we can never know what those expectations are. And if we don't know what the expectations are, actually, we don't really understand what their motivations are. We don't really understand what the value of what we're doing is. And if we don't understand the value of it, we can't share in that value. And then you get all of the kind of complications that come with selling things and the complication which comes with doing things. Because, what might be kind of bubbling around under the surface of when we're working with our clients and customers is actually a kind of misalignment, if that's a word. And this thing around expectation, I think, feels really kind of important to me, because if we don't flush out these expectations, we might find we're providing subtly the wrong service. And that's, of course, not changing that I'm doing coaching, or not changing that I'm teaching them mindfulness, or not changing that I'm being a virtual assistant or providing websites or whatever it might be. But what are the expectations? because they're the things which determine the quality of the relationship, how aligned you are. And the more aligned you are, the more opportunity there is for kind of ease in that relationship, and ease there will be in the kind of money exchange too.
So for those, if anyone has any questions, or you have a certain situation that you'd like to share, maybe there's an experience that you have that relates to what we're talking about, please ping a message on the chat, and we'd love to invite you just to share that perspective. Or maybe it's a situation you'd like to get our perspective on, so please feel free to do that. I think we find that really energizing. I think it also kind of grounds some of the stuff that we're talking about here. I think one of the things I'm really excited about this podcast, webinar, show thing, and also the course that I'm really getting more clear about is what you said at that last bit, alignment, where actually you feel ethical, energized, really wanting to sell, as opposed to like thinking like, oh, I'm just kind of trying to convince someone to buy this thing, this kind of manipulative aspect of it. And this ability to, or thinking about it, reframing this approach of really understanding what it is, like you say, the expectations. What is it that this person wants to get? Where do they want to get to? What is it? Where is the value? How do they perceive the value? So that we can then step into that. Because one of the two scenarios here that I think about, you build a product and you think if value is quantity, then you start filling it with content and ideas and stuff. And then you realize, or you might find out, what your customer wants is ease. And actually adding more content doesn't actually create the value you want. And then what that also means for you in terms of ease for your work. It's like if you're suddenly struggling and scrambling, trying to make more stuff and more stuff because you think that's where the value is, then what does that do to your profitability, your energy, your enthusiasm, all the stuff that can affect the sustainability of your business, and the sustainability of your impact. So I find it really interesting, this idea of like we're thinking, what we started off as like happy pricing. How do we price our stuff well? Actually starts to make, if you really think more deeply about it, it bleeds into how do you run the business? How do you create the products? Who do you really want to commit to in terms of who you want to work with? So I'm learning something every day when we have these conversations. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that was coming up when you were just talking there is that actually, because I know the thing that is on the kind of label of this is kind of money and price. But actually, another way of thinking about it is just about happy chatting rather than happy pricing, because that goes to the heart of what we're talking. The kind of this thing around alignment, this thing around ease, is about the ease, how the exchange, how we exist in this kind of symbiotic way with the people who we kind of want to serve. Because I think we all know those clients, those situations, those projects where we are most energized is where a lot of that kind of resistance, those kind of things which are uncomfortable are kind of fall away. And that, this is all about a kind of attitude. It's about an approach. It's about how kind of open we are to the dialogue, how much kind of joy we bring to that kind of conversation. And I think that's kind of a lot of what we're sort of interested in here, is how you kind of bring that joy, that ease to it. I'm kind of curious if anybody is kind of when we ask the question, when we kind of put it out there for, what is it that your clients or customers are buying? I'd be kind of interested to know what people think about that. What do you think people are buying?
Yeah, please share in the chat. Maybe just one of the things that you think your customers are buying, and if you're really crafty, maybe share the website where they could buy it from. But yeah, ultimately, it's like, what do you think they're buying? What is it that they're coming to you for? And for me, this also, by thinking about this stuff, what comes up for me is like it actually starts to feed into the marketing, because take it from, I'm thinking mainly from coaching level, because I do coaching, lots of people that we work with are coaches. At one stage, you're kind of like maybe trying to find out who your customer is. And so there's a lot of conversations of understanding, okay, all right, what is it they're trying to look, what are the tangibles, intangibles, practical things they're trying to get from coaching? And what kinds of people do I want to talk to? So there's this kind of gray area at the beginning at some point where you're just trying to work that out for yourself and by talking to lots of people. Then at some stage, I believe, you suddenly get comfortable with, actually, those are the people I want to work with. That's the kind of stuff they're looking for. And now I know what to write. Now I know what to put on the website. Now I know what to maybe do on social media. Now I know what kind of topics I want to do on podcasts. Now I know what rooms I can do on Clubhouse. You have a much more clearer idea of the conversation or the person you're talking to. But that, I feel, at some point, you can't get confident with that until you've done some of this exploration and some of this kind of investigation and having conversations and really being curious, I think. Because there's this idea of, like, rather than selling, how can you coach people into clarity and then through that get clear yourself?
Yeah. I mean, the thing which is coming up as you're talking there is this idea that I'm kind of really sort of curious what people feel is between them and earning the amounts that they want to earn, or pricing the amount that they think that they're worth, or, you know, or kind of sort of sharing in that value. What is between where you are today and this point? You know, what are the things that you kind of feel like you need to sort of work through? Because I think all of that comes to bear in the pricing thing. All of that comes to bear in the marketing thing. And the more you kind of sort of shine a light on some of these things, the more useful it is.
Right. I'm gonna create a bit of an uncomfortable silence, and I'm gonna say, someone please put something in the chat. So we can riff off of that. So I'm gonna do 1 minute. Unless someone writes something, we're gonna be quiet. It's gonna be great for the podcast. Maybe I need to tell them what to write. To reiterate, what is it that you think your customers are buying? Mark's really not liking this. It's not good podcasting structure. Actually, Mark, I'd love to know what you think people are buying off of you. Ooh, I'll put him on the spot. And Stephen. And Lawrence. And Alex. Okay, cool. If you're courageous enough, or if you're, well, actually, if you want to help us out, would you be up for having a chat about that briefly? Because maybe that's okay. Cool. So he says, so Mark says right now his customers are actually buying a hosting service, for their podcasts, but he's trying to help educate people into the other value he can bring. So we'll see. If you want to come on, let us know. It'd be great. And so otherwise, I'm going to have to butcher my understanding of what you're trying to do. He's trying to help indie podcasters essentially grow and get comfortable with podcasting, and that's my understanding. And maybe it aligns to the business. I'm not 100% sure if that's how you want to pitch it, Mark. But there is something around consistency, finding your style, just being able to create this podcast and do it in a way that feels, I think, authentic, and also feels like something that you can do. That's yay! Let's get Mark on board. I knew if I started butchering his business, he would come on board.
He'd have no choice but to come and defend himself. Exactly.
Right. I'm going to get Mark to come and explain where he's at. So we usually go on for about half an hour, but now that Mark has said he's going to jump on board, we're gonna see if we can. We might go on a bit longer. Esme says integrity is hugely important. I'd love to hear you elaborate more on that. What does that mean for you? Is that integrity for your customers' integrity, or integrity for you in sales, or something else completely different? Yay! Boom! Awesome. We have Mark. It's
Can you hear
like
me okay?
two crowd. Yes, totally. We got, you do a crowdcast for a whole year, and then you get Mark twice in a row.
It's not the
Like
first
the
time I've been
buses.
compared to a bus today.
So, Mark, go ahead. Explain to us. Give us maybe where you're at with this in terms of talking about what people buy off of you.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, I don't think you're miles off from what you're saying. I provide a service and have done for the last 5 years that helps keep people's podcasts on the air, if you like. I call it lifting them up to the high shelf of the internet and just taking care of that kind of stuff for them. Whereas what I'd like to do additional to that is help people with a lot of the common problems that they solve as podcasters. So working in much more of the creative areas, which is stuff that I've done for the last 15, 16 years. And it's the challenge at the moment, which is not necessarily pricing based, but it's certainly what I'm working to at the moment is trying to educate might be the wrong word, but trying to say to people, hey, listen, like there's this stuff that I can help with. How can we figure out a solution by which I can help you, but also I can make a living?
I'm wondering, Ben, just I'm wondering if we look at it from this idea of tangibles, intangibles, and some practical stuff. I don't know if there's a way to think about it that way. Or you go for it, Ben. What were your thoughts or any questions?
Well, firstly, thanks, Mark, for coming on and sharing that. I guess, the first thing that I say, actually, as you started to articulate, the thing you wrote is they're just buying, and you might have actually said they're just in the inverted thing is just buying a hosting service, because of course they're not just buying a hosting service, as you just articulated there. They're buying the reliability, that they are always heard, that they are more easily found, all of those kind of things, if you're kind of sort of taking care of that. So there's a whole range of outcomes and benefits that they are already buying, and those outcomes and benefits are their motivation to keep buying. So to the point around the sort of tangible and intangible kind of references, as Carlos was saying there probably are tangible things like the frequency with which they are found by new listeners, for example. I don't know, I'm kind of guessing here, but there will be tangible things that they are buying, and then there clearly are intangible things, which is about kind of peace of mind. And I'm sure also, you're saying you kind of that there is quite a lot of expertise that you were bringing. You were made reference there to 15 years or so of kind of providing this kind of help. Therefore, there's kind of huge intangible value. There's kind of trust. There's a safety, there's a reliability, there's a comfort and ease that comes from buying an expertise that somebody has, which is built over 15 years. So, you can start to see how it starts to kind of play out in kind of tangible and intangible things. And you're kind of making the reference about whether, this evolution you're on relates to kind of pricing. And in many respects, you're right. It's not that the pricing is the most important thing, but what we are talking about is actually the more you start to understand all of these things, that there is a pricing benefit. And actually, pricing people get sort of stuck on. But, as you kind of evolve your services and you would talk about it kind of more broadly, the value that you bring increases. And, asking the kind of question of your customers, your clients, what are your sort of expectations from podcasting? What are your expectations from me? Starts to kind of point to opportunities to innovate, opportunities to evolve your offer. And the more that you do evolve your offer, which probably will also fall into some tangible benefits and some intangible benefits, actually the opportunity for increasing what you earn from those things also goes up. But I think, the sort of using these idea of the kind of questions, because I think as that there are things additional things which you could provide. Clearly, the important thing to understand is, well, what is it? What are the concerns that your customers' clients have, and how do you connect those things together? Because when you get that connection, that's when there is value in the relationship, and that's essentially all we're sort of talking about. Really, is how you navigate to those places.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think the trust issue is really important, and I think I found areas where there are areas in which I am trusted, and then there's areas where that trust needs to be transferred, if you like. And that's a fun challenge to sort of, people trust me to keep their stuff, online and all the rest of it, and they trust that if there are issues or if they've got questions, they know where to go for that, and they know that they're going to get answers. And then the next bit is building that trust in terms of, if you need more of a steer in terms of how you're growing your audience, or your the quality of the output and that kind of stuff, then that's also where I can add value. And so it's, but the trust isn't there in the same way, and so part of the challenge, I think, is migrating that and helping in that sort of I don't know, I'm training, sorry.
But I think actually questions, this all comes back to questions. As you are sort of demonstrating kind of trust in this kind of new space, actually, rather than asking them if I can help you with this, actually just leaving them with the question, how are you growing audience around your podcast? Actually, so it then it kind of gives it back to them, because actually the thing that you find is, by asking them the question and leaving it with them, they percolate, and they either know the answer or don't know the answer, or have an understanding up to a certain point. But it invites conversation, it invites dialogue, and then that goes to the heart of everything we're sort of talking about, is how to be in dialogue with people, which sort of sounds ridiculous, but that's essentially what it's about, really. And so using questions to kind of open up a kind of way of thinking about something naturally invites you to the table, and that then you are kind of earning and building trust as you go.
I love that. Yeah, I was speaking to someone who's sort of in our community a couple of days ago, and I was saying that the way I care, or the way I demonstrate care for people, is, if they're going through a particular tough time or whatever, is by asking questions. And I that's really interesting. Like, that's how I demonstrate that I care. If I don't have the answers, I want to ask questions like, how are you doing? How is it, if it's a condition, how long is this going to last? What's the doctor say? All these different things. That's my sort of way of demonstrating, and I really like that as a concept. I'm trying to do more spending more of my time with people who just want to hang out and talk about podcasting and stuff, and I really love that as an approach. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Great, yeah, bringing more of yourself to your work. I think that's essentially where the opportunity is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it was something that's was sprung up for me when you were talking there, Mark, was I'm trusted here, but now I need to build trust there. And I'm curious as to, actually, you've got there's trust implicit there. Is on this other bit, it's like, okay, I just don't have a proven record maybe of getting people to a certain place. But ultimately, I get the feeling that people will still trust you because of, like you said, you care. It's a more fun foundational thing, this idea of trust. Is that I believe this person has my good intentions, is looking out for me, rather than purely, oh my God, yes, this person is going to guarantee X results. Because a lot of the time we can't necessarily guarantee X results. What we want to know, I think, is this person, am I safe with this person?
Mm-hmm.
Is this person going to do what they can to help me, rather than is this person just a shyster trying to get my money?
Yeah.
And so there's something there around leaning, I feel, when we're creating a new product or service, leaning into that and saying, actually, you know me, I'm going to do my best for you. And that's a lot of value there, full stop.
Yes. Yeah, that makes total sense.
And I'm hoping for people there who are launching something new, who've maybe got an existing brand or existing customer base, actually, and this is what we talk about at the Happy Startup School, having this strong sense of identity and community, that really helps with launching new stuff, because you're not starting from scratch every single time with building a relationship. And I love what you said there, Mark, about from listening to your podcast, the energy, the sort of the ease that you have in terms of conversations, that feels attractive, that feels valuable as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Cool, awesome. Thank you very much, Mark.
You can send me back into the audience now.
I will
cast you away. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Awesome. I will.
In true Clubhouse style, Mark and I finished speaking.
Awesome. Catch you later. Thank you very much. Cool. Any any final reflections on that, Ben?
I think, just everything comes back to this thing around questions. And I think, as sort of Mark was saying there, this feels like it's partly about pricing, but it's partly about what I do, how I do it, what is it that kind of people are buying. And of course, I think the whole idea behind the kind of happy pricing course and what we're exploring on this podcast is actually what the opportunity for what you earn to increase. It will go up the more you are kind of aligned with what it is that your customers and clients want, actually. And the more there is that alignment there, the more opportunity there is for kind of sharing with ease in that relationship. And, this thing around kind of questions and using our kind of skills that are just kind of fundamental to how we work, bringing these things to bear increases the opportunity for that ease. And in increasing the opportunity for that ease, increases the opportunity for what you would earn too.
And when it comes to these questions and conversations, I think it now reminds me of another aspect we talk about the course about getting out of your own way. And what that means to me in the context of exploring value with the customer is not having these expectations in this conversation, not suddenly putting your own beliefs and ideas and potentially subconsciously derailing the conversation about where the value is. So it really being mindful in a sense, kind of a mindful practice. And this is why it excites me now, because there's a real deeper level. Like, how can I not have my own stories around money and value and pricing get in the way of me really connecting with this person to understand what they really need and want and expect? And there, I think, is because we talked about this in the past, like we can teach the tactics and strategies, but there's some more deeper transformational work that I think can be really powerful in the way we interact with people, where we don't feel like, oh, I've really hijacked this conversation with my own limiting beliefs.
Yeah, waking up to assumptions. That's a whole new thing.
And so I don't know if this is the right segue, but then there's next week we're going to be talking about the soul of money and this book that you shared with Lawrence and myself. Maybe briefly explain what the high level idea around this book is.
So the high level idea, it's written by a sort of long time charity fundraiser who, through the course of that work, I think over sort of 20, 30 years, spending kind of huge amounts. Her work was particularly around a thing called the Hunger Project. And so it's kind of raising money for that. And so spent a lot of time in conversation with people around money, maybe high net worth people who were kind of donors, but equally then kind of recipients of the work that they did. So, wherever it may be in the world. And so it's her basically teachings around everything she learned around how our relationship to money kind of works and what the opportunities for that are. And so, so it's essentially that in a nutshell, really.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I think there was a bit of a segue then, because I feel like there is our own relationship to money that can cloud the conversations we have with other people about money if we're not aware of these things. So, yeah, looking forward to not having to read the book.
Blinking, or whatever it was called.
Blinkisting. That is the way. Cool. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you very much.
And thank you as well, Mark, for joining us and prompting some thoughts and the direction of travel for this conversation. And thank you everyone else for listening live and sharing just sharing this space with us. And for those of you who are listening to the podcast, I hope you enjoyed this. And if we are still doing it, sign up to the mailing list so you can get an alert of when these webinars are going on. Just go to happypricing.co, and that's the website, and you can download the manifesto. And by downloading the manifesto, we'll also sign you up to the mailing list so that we can let you know about all of these conversations and ideas that we're sort of discovering along the way. Brilliant. Take care, everyone. Have a great
Thank you.
Wednesday was a happy hump day.
Ouch.
Awesome. Bye-bye.